Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias. So, I went and picked up one of these peasant knives by Sword brand. Sword is a brand out of New Zealand. I picked it up mainly because, well, I don't have a knife from New Zealand, so I thought, why not grab one of these? As you can guess, I picked up the one that is made in wood. It's got a 3-inch blade, so it says. The handle is approximately 5 inches. I grabbed it in wood because, well, I got a feeling that peasant knives from about 100 or so years ago were not using plastics for the handles. And I kind of just like natural materials, so that's why I went with the wood. I'm thinking I might pick up another one that had a clear plastic handle. I kind of like that one too, so I might grab that one too. But I do have a few reservations about this knife that I would want to go over with people. Now, as I mentioned, this is a peasant knife, so it is basically a friction folder. And here you see the knife disassembled. Yeah, I like pulling Nick Shabazz and actually disassembled the knife. I hope I didn't break the warranty on this thing. I'm pretty certain I didn't, because this knife is very simple to take apart. If you notice here, the ends here, flathead screws. You can open this with a coin even if you wanted to. What you have are 2 compression screws, or Chicago screws, whichever way you want to call it. 2 wooden handles. You got a lock pin or a stop pin there, and then 2 brass washers and the blade. And there is no back spring in this because, well, it is a peasant knife. It is a friction folder. The closest thing to a safety feature on the knife is the extended tang here. And that was probably one of the first advanced features for a safety feature on a friction folder that ever came out, was the advanced tang. Before then, all it was a knife and a wooden handle that folded and without an extended tang. And you see the lock bar there. That is so that the knife, let me get a part of the compression screw here. Pass that through. Oh, it should grab a washer. It had 2 brass washers, one for either side of the blade. And you slip it over top of that, and you see how the lock bar prevents the tang from going all the way through. Now, you obviously don't need that long of a tang. The extended tang is to also help you open the knife one-handed if you so desire. Now, you don't need that long of a tang to do that, and also you don't need the bump there unless you want it. You could, in theory, just chop that off and round that off, so you would have the extended tang just drop all the way into the handle. A lot of people complain about a hot spot on that tang when you close it up. You'll see that in just a second. We pass this through over here, and I'll show you why you don't have a second lock bar, and that's because that part of the compression screw actually acts as the lock bar for the other side of the knife blade. So if you're going to end up with a ding in your blade, it's going to be right there. If you shorten that blade any, you still have the lock bar catching it on the opposite side, but it does actually hit the lock bar and the back spacer here at the same time. So that might be a little bit of a problem for some users, because you can definitely ding your blade right there. Let's put that down and get the other washer on. Match up the handle. Fairly easy to put back together, and I tell you what, when the knife first showed up, it was just hand tightened, which could be a problem. once you first get the knife, that the fact that it is just hand tightened. I don't think they used a screwdriver one to put this thing together. I think they put it together just as you see what I've done here. Tighten it up a little bit with a thumb and a thumb. And the reason I say that is when I first got the knife and pulled it out of the package, did you see that? This is what happened. I got the knife, it was in the package. I grabbed it by the tang, pulled it out, and boom, just like that. And it's like, wow, that is loose. And it really was loose to the point that when I was holding it in my hand, I just barely released that. And it actually came around and hit my finger. Didn't cut me or anything, but that's how loose it was. It's like, okay. So now I don't know if every knife comes that loose, or if mine just happened to come that loose, but it's something to be forewarned about it once you receive this knife. You may want to tighten it up right away, and then adjust how far you want everything to go with it. And so typical Swiss Army Spartan, tighten up these screws a little bit. That's what I did the first time, and I thought, well, it's like, crap, too tight. Okay. Is that what I wanted to do? Or is that too tight? And it's kind of difficult for me to swing it around. So I started loosening and playing with it and everything, trying to get the pivot adjusted. But what I found out is for me to get it to open one-handed easily all the way around, I needed to have that front pivot too loose, so that whenever I'd even remotely or even think about removing my thumb from the back here, the blade would start to drop. So you're going to want it to be a little snug. And also you want it a little snug also, just so that that blade gets caught in the wood bit there. Now, I don't know if that's the same issue with the plastic handle ones or not, but it was a problem with the wood ones, and I do like the wood better than the plastic. Now, if you notice here, you see how the gap is right there with the blade in place? Once the blade is rocked around, there's a little looseness in the back of the handle here, and it kind of moves a little bit, which is a little bit of annoyance to me. But if I tighten it up too much, then the blade doesn't seat all the way. And so to me, it's like if you're one of those people who is going to use this knife every day, all the time you're using this knife, you're going to really enjoy it a lot more than the person who is the occasional user, or someone who has this knife rotating in and out of their collection or out of their rotation for use, and this knife shows up like once a month. You're not going to like this knife too much, because it behaves so much more differently than any other knife that I have in my collection. This doesn't act like any kind of slip joint. It doesn't act like any kind of lock back. It is totally a different beast when it comes to knife use. And it's going to be something that you will definitely need to get used to. But once you're used to it, I think it'd be a very safe carry. I was thinking about the tang here. How important is this hole? The tang hole would be, I guess, important if you decided that you wanted to pass a lanyard through there. Have to be a kind of a small lanyard. The hole isn't that big, but you could do that, or use a key ring or something like that. If you did that, it would definitely bring this out more, because it would stop at that point. As you can see, it will drop further in if you don't have it there. Maybe that's where it's supposed to stop, in which case a lanyard would be fine. You could then also use the lanyard to wrap the cord around the handle, wrap the cord around it, and secure the blade open. That would be a possibility. You could also use the lanyard then for, wearing this around your neck, something of that nature, or just making it easier to pull it out of a pocket or out of a sheath, something of that nature too. So, not a bad idea, but if you really did not have any desire to use that hole for anything, you could also just cut this and round it off a bit so it's not a sharp edge or anything, and drop it all the way into the handle. And that would get rid of what some will consider a perceived hot spot. I didn't find this to be that annoying, though, to tell you the truth. I just put my hand there, I feel it, but it's not really bothering me. So other people might think otherwise. What I do like about it, and one of the big favorites of this, as far as I'm concerned, is the length of the handle. You close this up, and the handle, the wood part of the handle here, is 5 1/8 inches long, so not too long. However, you do have that extended tang, which adds 1.5 inches to the length of the knife overall. So you're looking at something that is 6.5 inches long closed. And it's not that much longer when you get it all the way open, because the blade length is just over 3 inches. You've got, 3 1/8 of an inch that way, and overall length everywhere is 8.5 inches. So length open versus closed, the only difference is basically 2 inches. So you're not saving a lot of space with the knife. What you're doing, though, is you have a knife that doesn't require a sheath. That's really what it comes down to, because you can put it, just shove it down into the handle. And again, if you were to have a piece of twine or something around here, you could actually wrap it down the knife and secure it closed too, if that's what you're worried about, it accidental opening and stuff. I don't perceive this as one of those knives that you're going to pull out real quick and you got to get it into action real fast and all that other stuff, and that's why you need this extended tang, so you can open it one-handed and flip it out and be ready to fight with. This is definitely more of a tool. It's definitely not a fighting knife. But my bottom feelings with it is, it's a little bit of a curiosity. If you're into primitive knives, then this is something that you definitely would want to take a look at. I think they did a really good job with it overall. When I first got it, I was a little disappointed in it. I've had it for about 2 or 3 days now. I have not carried it a lot, but I have fiddled with it quite a bit, and I have adjusted the tension on the blade quite some time now. And I got it to the way I want it, which is fairly snug, actually. And I think that's really the best way to do it, is to keep the blade kind of snug, because by doing that, it is safer, basically. Yeah, you don't open it as easy, but it also just doesn't flop closed on your hand when you have it. You're using what you're supposed to use on here to keep the blade in place, which is friction. It's a friction folder. So part of the reason the blade stays open is because of friction, not just simply because you've got your hand on this extended tang. I've got other friction folders that do not have an extended tang, but the blade stays open just fine without a thumb on it. And same thing, you close it, and it is actually being squeezed between the two wood sides here because of the tension of the screw here. So the blade stays closed. It doesn't open easily simply because of that. The extended tang allows you to open the blade without having your finger down by the tip point. So that's my own personal feeling about it. That's how I would prefer to have it, and that's the way I will keep it. Will I be carrying it a lot? Probably not. Um, but if I were to carry it a lot, I think I would get very used to how this operates, and it would become a very friendly carry, as friendly as just about any other knife. I think the more familiar you are with this knife, the more you will enjoy it. If this is a knife that you throw into your rotation and you pull it out and you carry it like once a month or something like that, it probably won't be carried more than 2 months, because the second time you start using it, it's like, I don't like that. It's all funky and everything. But if this was something that you were carrying every day and using every day, this would become an old friend very quickly, because you'd be so familiar with how it operates, how it works, and it really does feel good in the hand when you're using it. So my first impression of this knife a day or two ago was, man, this is junk. I don't know why people have been raving about it so much, but just after a day or so of playing around with it and getting it adjusted to the way I want it and everything, I can kind of see why the guy in the picture here is kind of smiling and having a good time cutting his cheese with this knife, because it really is a fun knife. And is it but you can also look at it and say, I can see why people were just crazy when they finally came out with a slip joint. It's like, wow, I got a blade and it locks in place. Or when they came out with a locking mechanism that held the blade closed or open when it was all the way open. Um, like the ring lock that you have on the or the collar lock you have on your on the open L's, or the little button lock that you have on the Laguiles. So many knives have found better ways than the extended tang, or just plain friction to hold the blade in place. But in the evolution of knives, it's a pretty cool idea, and yeah, I'm much happier with it now than I was a day or so ago. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I did actually do some cutting with this, and despite what you're seeing here, it actually cuts pretty good. It came pretty sharp. Like I said, it almost closed on my hand when I first got it, and it it almost cut me right away. So definitely be careful with it when it's coming out of the box, because it does come sharp, and the blade comes relatively loose in the handle. So at least it did with this wood one. Literally, you can loosen and tighten this thing without a screwdriver. See that? It's pretty cool. Anyway, I'll let you go. Stick around for some slides. let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with Tobias. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.